What is going on, everybody? It's Dylan from Redline here, back with another video. In case you didn't see my last video, we are now doing a $500 to a Ferrari challenge. I'm going to start with 500 bucks, work my way up, and hopefully get a Ferrari or some kind of other exotic car, something cool. Now, this is part 2 of this series. Last video, I showed you guys the very first car I picked up for 500 bucks. It was a 2002 Volkswagen Jetta with the 2.0. It was a 5-speed manual. Go check that video out if you haven't already. This is gonna be a pretty cool and fun series, so let's hop right into this video. So as you can probably tell by the title, obviously this is part 2. The Jetta did in fact sell. I ended up getting $2,200 for it out the door, so roughly $2,000 before tax. So I have about $2 grand to work with. Now, before we dive too deep into the video, I want to go ahead and thank you guys for 2,700 subscribers. Freaking means the world to me, and it's just awesome. I'm just so thankful from the bottom of my heart. Oh man, it just gets me freaking pumped every time I look at my subscriber count going up, and just knowing that people actually watch my videos and support me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Also, real quick, ignore the B5 being headliner-less. It's getting ready to get new headliner. I'm gonna put some suede headliner in it. So right now we're rolling with the bare metal roof. Hopefully it's not too noisy in here. So like I previously said, we have about $2,000 to work with. There's a couple of different ways that we can go about this depending on what we find and what the prices are today. Typically, I try to stay away from auctions overall. It's much easier, in my opinion, to do with private party people, actually see what you're getting into, fully test drive, look at the car, go in depth. At the auction, it's kind of like bang, bang, bang. Obviously, you can go and check out cars a little bit beforehand, but you never really get the full overview of what you're getting into until you already have the car and you're driving back to your shop or your house or whatever. So depending on what we find today, the 2 different routes I was thinking, maybe get 2 super duper cheap cars and try and flip both of them, or one $2,000 car that's probably slightly nicer and hopefully it doesn't need a crazy amount of work or anything, and we're able to just flip that and keep on moving on with this challenge. Now, as I hinted at in my last video, the hardest part of this challenge is probably just starting out. It's like when we're at these cheaper prices, $500, $200, or $500, $2,000, $4,000, etc. It's a little more difficult because you got to get cars that you're more or less taking a risk on and probably don't have as much upside to make money on. So starting out, it's a little harder, but once we get a little decent bankroll going, I think this challenge should go pretty smooth. As we move up the ladder, I'm probably going to get more cars that I wouldn't usually get, whether it be a cool car or something to make content with. Maybe we'll go that route, but obviously we're going to play it by ear and see what happens, what cars we get, and slowly climb this ladder. So it is currently tax time as well. The good thing about tax time is, well, for selling cars, amazing. The problem is sourcing inventory. Inventory prices go through the roof. Actually trying to source the cars, everyone wants top dollar for their inventory or for the cars that they're selling. So that's the problem at hand, is actually sourcing the stuff. Personally, I've never had a trouble selling anything really. It's always trying to find stuff for the right deal that's not an absolute piece. Now, obviously, when you're in the $2,000, $1,000 price range, the cars aren't going to be the nicest cars. You're not going to be riding around in a 2023 M340 M Sport car or anything crazy like that. You're kind of looking at older, high mile cars, which I actually like prime example, the Jetta. Older, high mile car, but mechanically ran and drove as it should. Stuff like that's what I'm trying to aim to get. I guess, like I said before, it all depends what's going through the auction. So I'm going to bring you guys along with me and see if we can scoop anything up and keep you guys posted. For reference, it is about 7:20-ish a.m. The auction doesn't start till 9 a.m. It's only about 15 minutes from my house, so I like to get there bright and early and look at some cars beforehand. All right, guys, just put up to the auction. Been here for a solid 3 seconds, and I already see something that I need. There's a 0% chance that it fits within the means of this challenge, but I freaking love these 6.0 Caprices. I had one before, and man, them things are awesome. I wouldn't say it's a budget G8, but it takes all the good things from a G8 and puts it in a bigger chassis. They're just awesome cars. So the Caprice isn't a total flop. It's potentially fixable. I didn't hear any crazy DOD noises or any of that stuff, and it pulled really hard, like I said, shifted nice. Here at the auction, you get like a little test strip where you can kind of get on the cars a little bit, make sure they go through the gears and whatnot. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be keeping my eye on that if it goes for the right price. Like I said before, I freaking love those Caprices. And now we're in this cheap A4 and it's beeping at me. So in terms of the challenge itself, something like this, a cheap B7 A4, maybe it's got a check engine light or something, and if it's not nothing too crazy and it's fixable, you can probably snag it pretty cheap, because a lot of people at the auctions are honestly scared of German cars, especially when they got a check engine light or any crazy lights on. So I just heard that there is a right-hand drive 300ZX going through, and I just put eyes on it, going to check it out. Now, definitely an interesting color to say the least. Sitting on BBSs. I actually had those same BBSs on my old Miata. I don't know if that's OEM paint or not, but I have a soft spot for these things for sure. And for those who don't know, I just had my first right-hand drive JDM import, a Suzuki Cappuccino, that I ended up selling, but that car was an absolute blast, and I need another right-hand drive car ASAP. So the auction starts in about 30 minutes. I'm gonna head in, get my bidding badge, and see if we can scoop something up. Here's another look at that Z sitting on BBSs, like I said. I don't think I showed the interior yet. Thing's pretty freaking sick, honestly. So I'm over here on the public side, aka the repos, and all these are all from a dealership. All their stuff got repoed. Now, fun fact, a lot of dealers use credit lines to purchase their cars. So a lot of their inventory, they don't own it outright. They have a credit line, they purchase the vehicles, and then when the vehicle sells, they pay off the payment, and whatever profits left, they make money. Obviously, when you have the cars on a credit line, it accrues interest, and there's a typically it's 3 months, and then you have a curtailment, and then it can be another 3 months. So this entire dealership, all their inventory is now at the auction because they got repoed because they didn't make payments, or the due date for their stuff came up, they couldn't pay for it, and they lost their whole lot. I actually noticed this yesterday. I drove past the lot and I seen it was up for rent with no inventory on the lot. I was like, what the heck happened to them? Come to find out, come to the auction, all their stuff is here at the auction, got repoed. The credit union, or not credit union, the credit line, it's called a floor plan, took their stuff and is selling it to recoup their money. The main reason this probably happened is they were overpaying a few months ago when the car market was at its highest and couldn't sell the stuff, or bought junk, paid top dollar for junk, can't sell junk, and screwed themselves essentially. I mean, there's probably over 60 cars from this place. It's called Peak Auto Sales. And I remember just a few months ago, they would run me up on some of the cars that I wanted, and it's just crazy how that happens. You overpay for stuff, can't sell it, and next thing you know, you're out of business. All right, everybody, I don't know the last time I actually filmed for this video. I think it was about a week or two ago. I know I was at the auction trying to hunt down my next car for this challenge. Well, if you can see what I'm sitting in, I think I hit an absolute home run for this challenge, and it's gonna skyrocket us up a lot farther than what I anticipated. So as I just hinted at, the auctions were a complete bust. Every car that I even remotely was interested in was just bringing crazy, crazy, crazy money. And I was just like, whatever. We dipped out, and I started hunting on Facebook and asking friends what they had for sale. Just anything to keep this challenge going, because I was like, okay, I'm not going to stop at $2,000. I got to keep this going. And man, I think this was, like I said before, a home run. So for a solid $2,000, right on the money, I ended up with this 2011 Audi S4 featuring the supercharged V6. Quick little overview of the car. Obviously, it's on lowering springs, has nice 19-inch peelers with surprisingly good tires. The beautiful Panda interior, featuring, I don't know if it'll come up on the camera, the black pearlescent paint. Just a nice, nice car. And I know what you guys are thinking. There is no way you got this thing for that cheap. So let me give you the rundown on how I did. Now, obviously, when I bought this S4, it was not even remotely as put together as this, or running and driving, or any of that. You're not going to get a running and driving S4 for $2,000. And if you are, you're the luckiest human alive, or it's a Copart car. There's some catch somewhere. Now, don't get me wrong, appearance-wise, this car looks beautiful. It's got some nicks, some bruises, a little stupid stuff to be expected. The car actually has 226,000 miles, so that's the first catch. And the second catch was, when I first bought the car, wasn't really running and driving. It was not a daily driver. it was the farthest thing from that. The front clip wasn't on it, didn't have headlights. She was leaking coolant everywhere, and honestly, just a mess in general. I couldn't drive it because of the coolant leak. Didn't want it to get hot. The steering was goofy. It was all ratchety feeling. But thankfully, I have some know-how on these cars and kind of like can anticipate what's wrong, or at least have an idea what was wrong. So I jumped on this. Shout out to my buddy Brock for hitting me up on this car. He knows I'm into S4s, and this was actually his brother's car. He had done a lot of work to it, had it running and driving for a while, and then it started leaking coolant again. So he's like, you know what? Let's just sell this thing, cut our losses, and be done with it. So he texted me, let me know what he wanted for it, and I was like, screw it. I'll take the risk on the car. I mean, worst case is I get nice Panda seats for my manual car and a nice set of peelers. The only part that was a little sketchy to me was I couldn't really drive it or anything. So you're obviously gambling in that aspect, but worst case scenario, you even could probably part this thing out and make money still. So shout out to Brock again and Brock's brother for letting me purchase this thing. It is clean title. It's very high miles. Still not a perfect car, but I went ahead, did thermostat crossovers. It already had a PCV done, which is a big plus. It already has new supercharger coolant bricks. Just all the big S4 maintenance things have already been done on this car, which despite the miles, that's an amazing selling point, all this stuff being done. Because no matter what S4 you have with the 3.0, that stuff's inevitably going to go wrong. So like I said, when I first picked this thing up, it was leaking coolant. Initially, we thought it was the front crossover, replaced that. Then it was leaking coolant again. Pulled the supercharger off, realized the thermostat housing was cracked, replaced that, and then we pressure checked it again and realized the farthest crossover in the very back was then the O-ring was actually corroded and broken and just all bad. Now, I forgot to mention, Brock did actually include the front bumper, the whole front clip in general. It just wasn't on the car when I purchased it, so I had no idea what it looked like or any of that. It was in the back of the car, and I was just like, well, I mean, how bad can a front bumper and some headlights be? Now, like I hinted at before, the car does still have some faults and issues and cons. I mean, it's a 220,000 mile car. There's going to be some issues. It has a crack in the windshield right here, and it has a brake pad fault code and a headlight fault. Oddly enough, the headlights function as they should, so I'm not sure why that fault's there. And the brakes appear to be newer, so I'm not sure why the pads are sending out a fault code. It could literally just be a faulty sensor. Other than that, I mean, overall, it's pretty solid. I mean, you got some like little tiny wear and tear scratches there. Some wear on the one side blade. I'm not sure what happened there. Wheels aren't they got some curb rash to be expected. Just little miscellaneous cosmetic things for the most part. So after initially paying $2,000 for the car, I did go just a hair over budget, which I'm kind of ticked about. I thought I could fix it a little bit cheaper than I did. So in the spirits of the video, the amount of money that I put into the car on top of the $2,000 will be taken off my total selling price, and that's the money I will have to work with. So prime example, say I were to get $10,000 for the car, I ended up putting $1,000 into it, so I'd have $9,000 to work with. Trying to keep it as fair as possible. I didn't anticipate to have that much money into it, but it is what it is, and in the spirits of the video, I feel that's the best way to keep it fair. As for the steering issue it had, like I said, it was like a ratchety steering feel. Actually, the U-joint needed lubricated, so nothing too crazy. Sprayed some PB Blaster up in there, turned the wheel back and forth a few times while it was jacked up, and it cleaned up perfect. I mean, I've put about 400, 500 miles on this thing in the past week and a half or so, and not even that much time, probably the past few days. And this car is just running awesome. Shifts smooth as silk. The wheels and tires are balanced out good. Like, everything just is good for a cheap, nice S4. Now, at the price point I'm going to be selling this car at, I would think that people would not be expecting a perfect S4. I mean, it's going to be a lot cheaper than all the other ones on the market, still being clean title with all the big maintenance done. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. So, like I told you guys in the last video, whenever you're selling a car, be honest about the faults it has or what cons it has. I already just posted this thing up last night. I mentioned the cracked windshield. I mentioned the brake light being on, the headlight fault. Just, you know, whatever's wrong with the car, be honest. Now, regardless of what faults this thing does have and what cons it has, I really don't think there will be an issue selling it. For the miles, this car's interior is really, really pretty. Can't complain about that. Also, in terms of like say I sell it and then the amount I actually have to work with for the future videos, I thought about selling some of the things on this car. It's got a carbon fiber diffuser, maybe sell the peelers off and going that route to recoup some funds. Because say you only had $2,000 to work with, you didn't have no money to put into the car, you'd have to find a way to get the money to fix the car. So I kind of thought about doing that. I might still do that depending on what I actually sell the car for. That's to be determined, but definitely an option if I want to go that route, so I don't have to deduct from the amount that I actually sell the car from. Now back to the car itself. Like I said, the interior actually cleaned up very, very nice. It was nowhere near this clean. I should have grabbed a video when I first picked it up. I'll insert a picture of what it looked like, but it was nowhere near as clean as this. The front clip wasn't on. Really couldn't drive. It was pissing coolant everywhere. Just a whole fiasco, but man, I am definitely happy with how this car turned out. Honestly, I was kind of shocked how nice the car ended up coming out. So when I was first purchasing this thing, I was thinking worst case, I'm gonna have to do a small baby step to move up in this challenge. Once the car was finished and I see how it runs, how it drives, how it came out cosmetically, I'm like, might be able to get a few more dollars out of this thing. I had posted it initially for $7,900 or trade. As I mentioned previously, I will be doing some trading in this challenge. I'm almost certain of it. I posted it for $7,900. I've gotten a few bites already, so we'll see if it sells for that. Ideally, I'd really like as close to that number as possible. So I'm not going to say anything too soon on the price because I have no idea what it's going to sell for. But as close to that as possible, and then maybe we can get like a turbo Mustang or something with a V8, something summery car, something fun is what I'm getting at. I want a toy next. So we'll see where we work our way up in the challenge from here, and hopefully this thing sells for what I'm anticipating and we can make a huge jump in this challenge. Sure, you guys want to see under the hood. I completely forgot to grab an under the hood shot. Pretty clean engine bay. I mean, I already cleaned it up, obviously. The supercharger's painted black, has new intercooler bricks in there, like I said before. Look at that, after 500 miles, coolant's still good. The leak actually was from the front. It would drip down through the valley, come down out there, and was leaving a bunch of puddling. Car's mostly stock in terms of mechanical modifications. It has an intake, so you hear the supercharger whine. Still has cats. No aftermarket pulleys or no heat exchanger or any of that stuff. Not even an exhaust, honestly. But overall, cannot complain. I know I keep saying it. I was just blown away how nice it came out. I'm glad I got the steering resolved. I'm glad I got the leaky coolant situation, even though it was a little bit of a fiasco. Got it solved. Car doesn't leak any oil. Really hasn't burned any oil either at this mileage, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, I can't complain. I'll throw up the listing pictures of how this car came out for the post. Send that to you guys or show it to you guys. You let me know what you think. And if you think I got a killer deal on this thing, because I've said it once and I'll say it again, I think this is the home run car to just go from here all the way up to here. So hopefully it works out that way and nothing crazy happens. Unfortunately, the car doesn't have Bang & Olufsen, and it has the base MMI and the base cluster. Personally, I don't really care about those things. I've driven this car, haven't really... The sound honestly sounds the same in the MMI. I have a little auxiliary thing that they already had wired in here, so it doesn't make no difference to me. It is equipped with Sports Diff and Audi Drive Select, so that still makes it for a fun little cruiser. But yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that this thing will sell hopefully quicker than usual, and we get on to the next car and just keep growing in this challenge. I'm just ecstatic that I was even able to get this thing for this price, and more or less that it was as easy of a fix as it was. Now, obviously, when you're buying something that's not running or has an issue like that, you really don't know what you're getting into, especially on these cars. It could have been way more severe. Definitely caught a break and just a bunch of easy fixes. So definitely happy for that. And let's hope we can keep climbing in this challenge, guys. Now, on that note, I appreciate you for sticking around watching the video. I hope I inspire some people to do this challenge with me. It seems like on paper, when you hear $500 to a Ferrari or $500 to an exotic, it sounds crazy. It sounds like some, I don't know, pyramid scheme or something. But it's definitely more doable than what you realize, especially once you start doing it. The first couple cars are definitely going to be your hardest. You're going to be taking on a lot of risk. You're going to be, not really a lot of risk, but the cars you're going to be getting aren't going to be cream puffs. You can't just go and say, oh, got 10 grand. I'm going to buy a turbo Mustang that's tuned, no issues. I can get in it, drive it, have fun with it, sell it, whatever. That's very unlikely. Now, this one I definitely caught a break on, but still had to put a good amount of money in, more than what I even anticipated putting into it for the challenge. So it's definitely doable is what I'm getting at here. You're going to have risk, but it's definitely fun risk. And at the end of the day, we only started out with $500. What's the worst that can happen? We lose $500. And then at the end of the day, this car's still worth something. You can still scrap it, blah, blah, blah. So I hope I motivate you guys to do this challenge as well. I hope I succeed in this challenge. Hopefully this S4 sells. Hopefully we move up and get a few cars, trade for something, whatever route we take. My plan is to succeed in this. This is a weird time in our economy, a weird time in this car market. And I feel like if I can succeed during this point in time, you'll be able to succeed without a problem. So thank you guys again for watching the video. If this seems like something that you want to stick around and stay tuned for the long term, feel free to subscribe. I have a bunch of other car content here on the channel. Thank you again for actually, I just hit 2750. So thank you for that. It means the world to me. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm Redline Dylan, literally everything. So thank you guys, for real. On that note, I'm out. I'll catch you in the next video. Hopefully we have this S4 sold or traded or something along them lines. See you in the next one. Thanks.